Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here today again with another video for you in our Zodiac Degrees series and your Vision Keeper totem. Today we're going to be looking at the archetype of Pisces from 22.37 degrees to 28.15 degrees, and that is in correspondence with human design, if you're approaching this from a human design perspective, gate 36 and gene keys number 36. So I have made an introduction video to this particular series. I highly recommend that you check out that video first. So I'll post a link up above in the description box below so you can watch that video and then come back and watch this one. And also, we currently have an online astrology hub where you can connect with me and other fellow astrology enthusiasts out there. So I'll post a link to that particular hub in the description box below as well, and I'll see you there. So if you have this particular archetype, your vision key bird totem is going to be the Nuthatch. And you're moving from at the shadow level, turbulence, to the gift level of humanity. That is your greatest gift. It is this idea of the spirit descending into the physical body. But at the highest destiny for you, it is about compassion. So yes, the dream arc vision keeper totem is the Nuthatch. At the fear level, it's the salamander, and at the life key, it's the squirrel. In the 64 I-Ching hexagram, this hexagram is called the darkening of the light. It is earth over fire. It's about bringing light to the darkest places. In the 64 genetic codon, this one is associated with the amino acid proline. It's an antioxidative chemical that deals with healing the wounds. It is part of the codon ring of divinity. It's all about awakening the higher consciousness through the transformation, through suffering. It's about understanding what we all have in common in order to reach redemption. It's about bringing the divine being into the world. Your programming partner is gate 6 in human design, gene key number 6, and that is the Zodiac Degrees of Virgo, 22.37 degrees to 28.15 degrees. And your programming partner is the opposite point in the zodiac wheel from you. It offers a complement, a balancing energy to this particular archetype. In human design, this gate is located in the emotional solar plexus. It is part of the channel of experience, 3536. So, some interesting facts about the Nuthatch. It is a bird that belongs to the Cetidae bird family, and it's a very, very cute bird, and I absolutely enjoy watching the Nuthatch do its thing. One of the most noticeable things that you'll realize about this bird is that it can walk, well, upside down, sort of. So basically, when it's walking on a tree, it can walk head first down the tree, which is something that a lot of other birds can't do. Most birds, when they walk up or down the trunk of a tree, they would walk up with their head going up first, but the Nuthatch can do the opposite. And the reason why it walks in an opposite direction with its head down first is because it is looking to find food in places where the other birds can't find. Because you see, most birds, because they walk up the trunk of a tree, they can see food that's hidden in the bark of a tree from one direction. But the Nuthatch, because it's going in the opposite direction, it can see food that is hidden in the bark of a tree from the other. You see, the other side of the bark. It's very smart. But of course, sometimes when you're watching the Nuthatch, you kind of feel like you're lost, a little bit confused or a little bit lost, not sure which way is up or down. And that is kind of like the Pisces energy, right? And the Nuthatch is so cute because it's a little bit of this restless bird. It's kind of like when it's walking, it's almost like it's jumping around, it's tiptoeing on its feet, it's about to be tripping. Get it, guys? Tripping. Have a good trip, you know? It also has a really interesting way of cracking open nuts and seeds because it would put the nut or the seed into the crevice of a tree. to hold, so that the tree holds the seed and then it cracks open the seed with its beak. So it's got some life experience. It knows how to survive, right? So if you have this archetype within you, whether that is in astrology or in human design or in the gene keys, you are going to be somebody who, first of all, can be pretty nervous, can be pretty restless. Sometimes it is an emotional restlessness or an emotional turmoil that may be going on inside of you. So because the Nuthatch is seeing something from a different perspective, this is why this archetype in the I-Ching is called the bringing light to the darkest of places, because you could be somebody who is able to see light in the darkest places when there isn't, just like the Nuthatch is able to see things that other birds can't see by walking down the tree head first. Let's talk a little bit about what it's like to be at the shadow level of this particular archetype first. You can be, like we said, emotionally restless and even be in a state of emotional turmoil or crisis. So what is the cause of your emotional turbulence that's going on inside of you? Because the shadow level of this archetype is called turbulence. And emotional turbulence is coming from a place of unpredictability, not knowing what's going to happen in your environment, not knowing what's going to happen in the future, not knowing when danger is going to be approaching you. This makes you very sensitive, very susceptible to the environment because of this feeling of not knowing or unpredictability. And actually, the reason why this is happening is that the society, there's things that goes on, such in the media, specifically in the media, mass media, like the news, that instills this type of an uncertainty or fear within the society. Because the moment you read the news, if you notice that when you see any type of bad news, like for example the coronavirus, internally we're going through some kind of emotional turmoil because we don't know what's going to happen. And the media industry, the news industry, has to do this in order to make money. Well, it doesn't have to do this, but it's doing it in order to make money, because if it just puts out pleasant news, if it only celebrates people's achievements, put out only kind of the bright side of society, which there is a lot of. There's a lot of good people out there in the world. There's a lot of successes that's happening, but if the news were putting that out there, it's not going to sell. So not everything in the news, all you Pisceans out there, is trustworthy. But at the same time, even the movie industry itself is instilling within our minds a sense of fantasy, lust, even sexual lust. When we watch romantic movies, when we watch dramas, it makes it you, because you're, can be susceptible to this, right? Feel like there's something that you desire. You want your life unconsciously at the shadow level. You want your life to be like that. And if you can't get that in your life, then you're going to feel like something is missing, that you're going to have to be searching for these particular desirable things, that you're going to need love and romance and lust in your life. This unsettled longing for something that is boundless outside of yourself at the shadow level. And this is very Piscean, very Neptunian, I suppose. So the thing about lust is that if it is expressed without consciousness, without awareness of being in the present moment when you're expressing your lust, it can lead to a feeling of guilt and shame because of the morality that the society has made, the man-made rules regarding morality that is not necessarily always universal, because lust doesn't have to be something that is bad. But at the same time, if you suppress your lust, it can lead to repression, leading to certain illnesses in the body. And either one of these extremes causes suffering. All you Pisces souls out there, the more suffering that you are having to face, and you may draw suffering to you with this archetype, the more chance you have of transcending it eventually. And that's of course going to be the gift level of it. But of course, you know, the suppression of the lust because of certain need to meet certain moral standards can cause nervousness within you. And this nervousness can cause either an emotional breakdown or an illness, right, in the body. But if you're expressing lust with no consciousness or awareness of it, I mean, you're overdoing it, right? And this can lead to guilt and shame because it can put you in situations where you're involved in certain love affairs. You're involved in love triangles in your life. There's drama in your life, unnecessary drama. Because the expression of the lust is not honest. There's a bit of this hiding, secretive nature, right? Because you're still feeling that particular guilt or shame that is not moral, but yet you still want to engage in it. And so instead of being clear, right? The Neptune energy of Pisces is clarity eventually, but it's also the fog, the mist. So not being clear, trying to hide it, you know, that is what causes the dramatic situations, kind of sexual affairs, love triangles, that eventually leads you to feeling guilty or feeling shame. At the gift level of this particular archetype, you can transcend this suffering. But in order to transcend this suffering, you have to know that you are human. And suffering is part of humanity. It is part of being human. You have to understand your suffering first before you can transcend it. You can't bypass, right? You can't just like escape somewhere or put it away and then go on with your life, because that's eventually going to creep out of you. So the understanding of your suffering means meeting your darkness head first, seeing what your shadows really are, being brave and courageous to meet your darkness. And this is why I made a video, I think, earlier in the year saying that Pisces is the bravest sign of the zodiac, and this is why. Facing your shadows, Piscean souls out there, people who have gate 36 or gene key 36, it's about digging into your past. It's knowing where your traumas are coming from, the root of your trauma. Because the reason why you may have these particular emotional turbulences inside of you and being very easily influenced by pop culture or the media or the news, causing this nervousness and your need to act on your lust, is coming from probably some form of neglect in your childhood through a particular parental figure or nurturing person who may not have always been there for you from certain times. They may not have been emotionally there. Maybe it's even a physical type of a neglect. This neglect, right, makes life, since you were very young, quite uncertain. You didn't know what was going to happen. You couldn't predict it. And so this becomes your emotional patterns as you became, you know, in your adult life. This was your pattern of uncertainty, emotional uncertainty. And so it makes that you sensitive to the external factors in pop culture and the media, and then hence it leads to the lust, which leads to the guilt and the shame, and so on and so forth. So it all starts with you seeing your suffering from a different perspective, seeing your emotional turbulences from a different perspective, from a perspective of you are not a victim of these seemingly fated, dramatic situations in your life, that there is a way to get out of it. This is the perspective shift. The process of digging into your suffering, of allowing yourself to purge those suffering, is the self-love that you can give yourself. Because if you're living without really understanding your shadow, without bringing light to your darkness, without bringing light to your shadow, you don't know who you really are fully. You're not embracing the totality of who you are, and that is not self-love. Self-love is to embrace the totality of who you are, is to heal yourself. This is being human. This is humaneness. And when you can love the totality and embrace who you fully are, you can then love humanity as a whole. So once you've done this type of work, you will be able to be faced with certain situations in your life that, maybe it's something similar to what you faced in the past, in which in the past, maybe you would have resolved this particular issue, you may have dealt with this particular issue through lies or secrecy, but now that you've done the emotional work, right, you will feel like you can be honest in certain situations. You see certain situations in the past which was fuzzy to you with much more clarity, because you are now able to communicate freely without the fear that when you speak truthfully and honestly, because when sometimes when you say the truth, right, there's an uncertainty as to how other people are going to respond to you. And if they respond to you in a way where it's like criticism or it's judgmental, you're going to feel very sensitive, right? You're going to go into this emotional turbulence. But if you've worked with it, you know where this emotional turbulence is coming from, you've purged from that, you've found this peace inside of you. The moment you are communicating your truth or communicating openly and honestly, it does not matter how the person is going to respond. However they respond back to you, you can have a grounding inside of you, or feeling like, well, there's peace inside of you now. You're not affected by that. And so we have problems or issues that are dealt with openly, with honesty, with clarity and transparency, rather than lies or secrets or hiding something, or like walking on eggshells in certain situations. We don't have that anymore. So when you are allowing yourself to feel your suffering and to purge from it, it is like the image of the Christ descending to hell, and Christ absorbing the sufferings of hell into himself, into the totality and wholeness of who he is. And hell is a representation of your shadows and your darkness, the traumas of your past, the guilt, the shame that has come from that. The Christ is a representation of your higher self. The higher self, Piscean souls, can receive, can absorb, can take in boundless suffering and boundless pain, and not be affected by it. The higher self can hold the pain. The higher self doesn't run away from the pain. If you have done the emotional purging at the bottom of the pain, emotions like a spectrum, right? So we've got like super enthusiasm, and then we've got happiness, we've got relaxation, we've got neutral feelings, we've got sadness, we've got pain. And pain and suffering is at the bottom of the spectrum of emotions and feeling. At the bottom of that, there's nothing. There is only peace. So if you could push through your pain and your suffering, you'll get a place of calm. You've felt it all, you've seen it all, you've felt the deepest that you could feel, and nothing else is going to affect you and hurt you. You have got in touch with your higher self. You can use this higher self for cycles of emotional healing that may happen in your life. You can use this higher self to heal other people, because you can hold their suffering and you can hold their pain without being affected by it yourself. Pleasure is pain. Pain is pleasure. This is why, again, Pisces is the bravest sign of zodiac, because it takes a lot of courage to do this type of an internal work. And so if we bump this particular archetype up a notch to reach your highest destiny, it is really about opening up your heart without the fear that anything's going to hurt you, because it isn't anymore. You're in a place of internal peace. And when you open up your heart fully, It means being vulnerable and allowing the world to see what kind of sufferings you have gone through, to let them see that you are human. When they can see that you are human, they connect with you. They bond with you in a way that is very profound. And people are going to be drawn to you for all types of healing because they know that you're going to totally understand and get what they're going through because you have been through it yourself. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional again. This is being humble, right? This is humility, is to be in that same position as everybody else and say, I know what you're feeling, I know you're suffering because I've gone through it, I'm only human. When you open your heart, everyone's suffering becomes yours. You can feel everyone's suffering, but you're not hurt. You're not holding on to it. You let them kind of like pass through you like an open vessel. And this is when your compassion, this is true compassion. This is when your compassion in your aura heals other people. And they become compassionate too. You spread the compassion. You can make the most evil people break down into tears when they're around you in your aura. Because the root of, immoral behavior or, what can be termed as evil, types of behavior, the person who's doing it is not awakened. The person who's doing it is holding trauma from the past inside of them, and they don't know how to cope, and they don't know how to act. And if you have real compassion, you truly understand this about them because maybe you were that person too in the past, right? And so you can be around someone who has no more will to live. They can be brought to tears by you, by your understanding of them, and want to continue living again. And so, sending so much love to all you guys, all you Piscean souls out there. And if you have this archetype, I highly recommend that you watch your programming partner video. So that's going to be Gate 6 in Human Design, Gene Key number 6. The zodiac sign of Virgo, from 22.37 degrees to 28.15 degrees of Virgo. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't. If you already subscribed, then thank you very much for coming along. I do birth chart readings, synastry, and relationship readings. All the information is on my website. And yes, I will see you soon, beautiful souls. Bye.